Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a fantastic guest. This is a woman who has worn many hats throughout her life: wife, mother, physical therapist, yoga instructor, business owner, many, many more. And we'll get into that. She is Dr. Brenna Barzenick, and she's with Downtown Yoga in Hammond. And I can't wait to share her story with you. Dr. Barzenick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Parker, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we really appreciate you. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. And look, behind you, there's some Girl Scout cookies that we're trying to unload. So on your way out, please grab a box and give them away or eat them or whatever. But before we dig too deep into your business and all that you have going, why don't we kick things off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am as local can be. I was born and raised in Hammond, where I still live. I was born in 1967 when North Oaks was known as 7th Ward Hospital. Went to Southeastern, went to LSU, New Orleans. So I've been around.
Yeah, you have been around and been thriving. Your family's done great things in multiple directions. I'm blessed to know several of your cousins and your nephew and many more nieces and nephews, I should say. So let's talk about that journey, because this is a show. We call it Ponchatoula Live, and most of the people like me live are in Ponchatoula, but it also encompasses people like you that grew up right down the street but serve our community. And certainly in many careers you've had. For example, I remember when my little brother Louis, busted his ACL 20 plus years ago. He came to see you to work on it, in your physical therapist days. Now so many of my dear friends, come up your way for yoga. So let's talk about that journey. You grow up here in Hammond. What was childhood like for you growing up in the 70s and 80s in Hammond, Louisiana?
Well, it was a quiet town back then. You could actually drive from one side of town to the other in under 10 minutes. That doesn't happen now. Went to local school, Holy Ghost Catholic school. That was kind of the only school other than public school, which there were only a few in our district then. And my family's Catholic, so they sent me to the Catholic school. I went to Hammond High, which old location, which was over by the University Center, which is now an administrative building at Southeastern. And life was great. I was 1967 that I mentioned earlier. And so say when I'm 10 years old, it was 1977. We could ride our bikes. There was no technology. If you needed to know something, you had the encyclopedias. My mom always made sure I had a lot to read, and I would flip through.
Long before Siri, there was Britannica, right?
Exactly.
You had to dig into books like this to find an answer.
Yes.
Since you brought up encyclopedias, I want to give a quick shout out to our dear friend in Hammond, Hobby Morrison. He's the only person I know that has read all encyclopedias from A to Z. I can't remember whether it was Britannica or one of the others, but he did that as a kid. That always impressed me. So it sounds like your childhood in Hammond was not that unlike mine in Ponchatoula, in that it was slow times. You could ride your bike. Your parents are basically like, get home by dark and you'll be okay. Not like the kind of booming suburban, mini metropolis that we associate Hammond with today, or even Ponchatoula, where I don't let my kids cross Main Street at their age because it is just packed to the gills with drivers, many of them texting while they do so. So you go to, you go to Hammond High, just as I went to St. Joe and then PHS, you go to Holy Ghost and then Hammond High. What's the next chapter like? How do you decide where you're going to go to college, what you're going to study? Do you know what you're going to do early, or is that something that comes up later?
Gosh, I was so interested in so many different things. When you talked about Hobby, he's also a friend of mine.
Oh, neat. Cool guy.
And I read the encyclopedias. I had the World Book encyclopedias from A to Z.
That's impressive. Now I like two people. That's cool. Two cool people. What's neat is, obviously, you and Hobby are both brilliant, but you're not just like bookworm nerds. You guys have really artistic sides to you. You're both kind of Renaissance people. I wonder if there's a connection there.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? I have to tell you a funny story. So I grew up on Little Italy Road, which is right down Range Road on the way to Hammond. It's actually Hammond, and it was so quiet on that street. Now it's like a racetrack. But
Yeah.
my
Well, and
cousin,
your family's still out there, right? I mean, I've been to the
yes,
property many times. Your cousin Britt's one of my best friends. He stood in my wedding. So I went there to visit your Uncle Bill and your cousin Britt a million times. I love that family property you have there in the Bend. And Britt's,
yes,
kind of showed me, look, this is where, so and so was. And it's so neat to have that multi-generation. And now in at least this third generation of
yeah.
Ma Leon's living out there. It's a pretty cool tradition.
Yeah, it is. Well, so I was leading to tell you that we all lived there. All of our cousins, we all lived on that street. And
Very
uh,
cool.
my two cousins, Marina and Bob, when they were old enough to know the story of Santa or the you know what I'm saying, in case any young people are watching right now.
In case my 7 and 9-year-old are listening, we're with you. We get what
Yes,
you mean.
the Santa story. I pulled out my encyclopedia to show them an evidence-based, documented case of Saint Nicholas, and it
I
told
love it.
all
I
about
love
Saint
it.
Nicholas and Santa
Right.
Claus, and then their minds were changed. So see what real information, true
Yeah,
information,
yeah.
not misinformation, that
Right.
Santa Claus, Saint Nick, solid information. See, that's something you can get from encyclopedias.
That's a great story. I love it. So, you kind of have a researcher at heart, a scientist, and also an advocate at heart in you there throughout that story. That's really neat. When did kinesiology and eventually physical therapy enter the fray? How did you get poked in that direction, or pointed in that direction rather?
Yes, well, I was at Southeastern first early in my junior year of high school. I took chemistry. I was thinking of pre-med, so I started college a little bit early. Then when I got to college, I was into cycling, competitive cycling, road cycling, and mountain bike cycling. And I was a cheerleader at Southeastern.
Oh, wow.
So I was in the athletic realm
Mhm.
and decided, hey, let me go into education, kinesiology. I didn't know. I mean, does anyone
Yeah,
know what they want to do at 18 years old,
I
17?
sure didn't.
Right. So that led me then to the biologies and the
Mhm.
physical therapy world. And I got a job at North Oaks as a physical therapy technician, and then the
Okay.
rest is history. And so from Southeastern, there was LSU physical therapy, and I
Right.
went to the New Orleans campus. And then I've been practicing PT for 31 years. I started at North Oaks, and then Michael Conlon and I opened Anatomics Physical Therapy in 1998 or 1997 maybe, and we're still the best of friends. I sold my portion to Mike many years
Right.
ago, and that's when Louis came, and actually Bree
Yeah.
came too. Bree came for his neck.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You're the
So,
family PT. My whole family loves you.
so my hands have been on many residents of Days Row Parish. I know that doesn't sound sounds a little creepy, but when you're a
Right.
physical therapist, that's the way it goes.
Well, I wrote this book. I'm an accident injury lawyer. I do nothing but injuries, which obviously puts me at an intersection with PTs and doctors for traumatic injuries a ton. And what I've noticed over the years, because I remember Louis coming back, he was the first one. You had treated Bree through football and all, but he's a man of few words, doesn't talk about it. But Louis had the more serious injury. He had a full, ACL reconstruction. And, in no uncertain terms, he told me they made me cry. But he loved you. And it's like, and you see that time and time. I mean, the hard work of recovery, whether it's a sports injury or a car crash or whatever, is done in PT. And what I've noticed over the years, through 23 years of practicing, injury law, 2,000 plus clients in my rear view, is that I can't really ever recall an incident where the clients weren't happy with the therapist. The PT clinic, they kind of always come out as a hero to these people once they're built up and reconstructed. Now, they may be MFing the surgeon or any other doctor along the way. They're certainly not happy with hospitals and medical billers and whatnot. But, what do you think about that? Am I way off base, and how is that? Because to me, it's kind of like this is the secret sauce of the medical world. If you can walk people through the toughest moments of their life, literal excruciating pain, and they
Yes.
kind of still love you a day later, a year later, whenever, there's some magic going on there. How do y'all do that?
Well, thank you for noticing that and saying that. And I think it is probably because they spend the most time with us as a healthcare
That makes
provider.
sense. Yeah.
So you see the doctor, you have your visit, you see you go to the surgery, you have the temporary care in the hospital, and we're boots on the ground for a patient. So from 2 times a week to 3 times a week for 6 weeks or sometimes longer. We are hands-on. I mean, I'm an orthopedic physical therapist. That's what we do. I mean, there are so many different
Would you
specialties.
mind explaining for the layperson like me who made a D in Chemistry 1 in college, kind of the difference between orthopedic PT and other varieties of physical therapy?
Well, that is my specialty,
Okay.
which is bones, joints, muscles, posture. That is what usually outpatient physical therapists focus on, unless you're in a facility that also has occupational therapy, speech therapy, and then you see some neurological patients, which would be brain injury,
Right.
stroke, pediatrics, you name it. But I guess the natural fit for me was orthopedics. But ortho means bone, so an orthopedic,
Right.
in that general sense, bones and joints. Arthro actually means joint, but it's the human body, the system, the human physiology, movement disorders, spinal disorders, all of those things.
Right. Okay. Now, one quirk I wanted to ask about here, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I don't fully know this story, but while you're here, I'm going to put you on the spot and get you to clarify for me. I think when you started your physical therapy career over 30 years ago, you could become a PT physical therapist without obtaining your doctorate. Maybe you got a master's degree. Now it seems like every new PT I've met is a doctor of physical therapy. I know you kind of are both, right? You started in the old days, but you obtained your doctorate. If you wouldn't mind, both tell us about your personal journey educationally, because maybe there's some kid in high school, college, whatever, like intrigued would want to do this career. But also for folks like me that haven't quite connected the dots, tell us about how that came to be, where kind of all PTs past a certain time are now doctors of physical therapy like yourself.
Yes. Well, the profession has always been underrated in terms of when I was in school, in terms of the curriculum and what we have to know and all the prerequisites and having a very, very high GPA to even get into physical therapy school. And so when I got in 1992, it was a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Science in Physical Therapy. And then you graduate from the medical center, either LSU or either New Orleans or the LSU Shreveport campus. And then you have to pass the state board exam, and then you are a licensed physical therapist. That is still the case for many PTs who graduated back then. They were kind of grandfathered in, so to speak, of not needing to go back and further their education. Then the year after I graduated, it became a entry-level master's program. And then the entire profession of physical therapy nationally moved towards, in the years to come, to the entry-level doctorate. And so it is a clinical doctorate, which it deserves to be.
Absolutely.
It's a very, very long process, 6 to 7 years of studies.
Okay.
That's your undergraduate degree. You take the GRE, and then you go to the medical school. And now there are 2 in Louisiana. Well, LSU has always had those 2 different campuses, but
when you say that it's the same campus where the LSU Medical School would be, right? It's always been in Shreveport and New Orleans. Okay.
Yeah, on Gravier Street at LSU Medical Center. And the same goes for Shreveport. Okay. But then Franciscan University in Baton Rouge just became accredited a few years ago. And so there's a few more options. It's really difficult when you apply to physical therapy postgraduate school now. It's difficult to get in. You have to check all the boxes. You have to have a high GPA. You have to have a dynamic interview. You know, it's really tough to get in, and there are very few spaces. And if you look at the overall scope of spots,
well, it's good to see that the profession kind of sharpening up, and not just your profession, but adjacent medical related professions. Last week we had Dr. Jenny Abrams Dunnington on the show. She's an audiologist, and she walked us through that. Chris Pugh talked about how the pharmacist journey has changed over the years, and in a similar way. And it's neat to know, because I can tell you, whether it's, you know, me as a patient or me as the husband or father or son of the patient, whenever I've gone, it's like you want that person in the chair to be as qualified as possible, and more education is always a good thing. And I think what's nice is it helps you guys get kind of the credit you deserve, you know, as a practitioner in the medical realm. You know, and it's you know, my kids have been going to PT for years, and they see this guy Josh in Hammond, and he's awesome. And he doesn't mind when you call him Mr. Josh instead of Dr. Josh, although he is Dr. Josh. But, you know, it's just kind of neat to see this profession, you know, evolve. And really good. As an injury lawyer, as I mentioned earlier, I've just seen the great work y'all do. People walk in and walk out two changed people. And, you know, it's not always easy, and every result differs depending on what's going on. But so let me ask you this. So you mentioned kind of your journey. You get into that. You're clearly a whiz-bang student. You start college your junior year of high school. And that was before. Nowadays, a lot of kids are doing that. Let me tell you, they weren't. I was born in 1977, and they weren't doing that until when I was in high school. I know they weren't when you were. So you do that. You mentioned, you know, and I know you have an entrepreneurial spirit, which I love to hear about too, because you and your family have been through so many businesses and thrived in all of them. And I love to hear always like to hear a happy parting of ways in business. You know, my right hand in my law firm, my financial guru, is my best friend, Will Richardson. Once upon a time, he and his brother and I had a business that failed spectacularly. 10 years later, they were both godparents to different sons of mine. So I love it when a business can part ways and still be happy. Yours didn't fail, but the partnership dissolved and you sold out. So how do you get on that journey where you go from a bright-eyed star student who becomes a PT to, hey, I think I want to own, because nowadays there are a half dozen or maybe more PT clinics in the area, but it sounds like when you started, it was just North Oaks, and I don't remember many before Anatomics. So what was that, you know, journey like, that entrepreneurial kind of move that you made?
Well, Mike Conlon, like I said, who still owns Anatomics, and I sat right next to each other at North Oaks in the outpatient desk. And we both kind of at the same time said, hey, what would you think about opening, you know, our own practice, and you being my partner, vice versa. And so we took the bull by the horns and did that. I sold to Mike when I became a mom. And so I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mother, which I was for a couple of years, which at the time I wrote the book.
That's what I was going to ask. Was that your author period? Because I definitely want to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, it was humor. It came from a newspaper column that I used to write called Tales from the Crib. And it's all humor. That's all I know how to write is humor.
Well, as I recall too, it's funny. I got it back. It's Tsunami. Was that the title?
Tsunami, like a tsunami.
Yes. So how'd that pop up? Yeah. What was the story behind the title and the urge to do it?
Well, I was home with two little children, which already can drive a woman insane. I mean, I love that. It's wonderful, but you know, motherhood isn't always cookies and coloring. You know, it's grand. I mean, it's a hard job.
No, you do the heavy lifting. Well, yeah, look, whenever I'm sometimes happy to be called into the office while Brandy's dealing with whatever chaos is here with our two. So no explanation necessary. Any moms watching know it way better than I do. They get what you're saying.
And so I needed a creative outlet, you know, because I went from successful business owner at Anatomics Physical Therapy with a nice income. My husband, he's in his own business and still in his own business. But
he's a juggernaut of his own. So you guys have got kind of dual success stories. That's cool to watch from afar.
We had our thing, our roles in terms of I was the medical professional and he had his business, and then all of a sudden I'm mom. This was my choice. This wasn't any expectation from my husband. That normally doesn't work out so well for him. But so I was home and I needed a creative outlet, and so I started writing about parenthood and motherhood. And so the name Tsunami, I was sick one year at Christmas. The flu, like the full-on flu.
Oh, yikes.
And so imagine.
That sounds just like the perfect storm of bad, juju.
Right. And it kind of coincided with the real tsunami, when the words started coming out about tsunamis and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I have this, I don't know what it is. It's a little glitch in my brain that makes puns out of not appropriate times, at funerals. But I thought, this is like, my house looked like a tsunami hit it, because I'm on the sofa and you have these little wild children running around. And so the words to mommy came to my brain at that moment. So that's how that came to be.
Well, it's a perfect description, because that's kind of the experience, right? It does hit you like a tsunami. And Murphy's Law certainly applies to mothering, right? I mean, when it rains, it pours, and any mom who's lived through it can understand that. But I will say, this glitch you mentioned, it might be a family trait. My mom, especially, but my dad too, have long recognized that your cousin Britt Ma Leon is my funniest friend by a country mile. He and I both enjoy, unlike my wife, who kind of pokes me when I do this, kind of the roast-based insult comic. We love to lob grenades at our friends and brothers and whatnot. And I don't know if it's just the two of you over there in that family, but I'm noticing a little trend there with humor, and that's neat. So you're at home, you leave behind your practice, you sell out. This evolution thing, you write the book. What's the publishing journey kind of like? How do you find?
Well, how long do you have? It was quite the journey to get published, but I ended up doing self-publishing, which was just coming around at the time. Me too. Mm-hmm. And it was a very professional company. I had an editor. I had, checking for spelling, grammar. I had a illustrator for the cover and a graphic designer. I was very much in tune with the production of the book. And so it wasn't an ebook, it's an actual hardcover book now in paperback, which I still get royalties for. That book came out in 2008.
Oh, wow.
I had a royalty check for 27 cents last year.
Well, I wasn't going to put you on the spot and answer your ranking, but I would share. This is a slide. When I spoke to the Hammond Kiwanis on Tuesday, I shared with them my Amazon, I call it worst sellers ranking. And for me, it's 2,978,263. That's where I rank on their author list. So I bet you beat me. However poorly you feel about your sales, trust me, you did better than I did with Accident Handbook. But I expect, like I did, that you still are so glad you did it. I mean, for me, I'm really proud of the book I wrote, and I know it's helped people, and I enjoyed doing it. What about you? Do you feel similarly, or what are your thoughts when you look back on it?
Well, I think it's a great chronicle for my children to read when they're older. And actually, my daughter read it from start to finish. And I call it the lazy mom's journey to doing baby books. You get that second kid, and the baby book, right, page 1, where their birth length and weight is on there, and that's it. So then they can read when they're adults of what they were like when they were little. And both of mine, I mean, I make it sound like I was raising, Cain and Abel, but I had 2 really wonderful kids, and they were very level-headed and sweet, but they had their moments. So.
Well, hey, but those well-behaved vanilla easy days, they don't fit with the Tsunami theme, right? And what I found is, you looking back, my kids are now 7 and 9. You remember the wild days, whether it was a really bad. I remember the meltdowns from Strawberry Castle Preschool way more than I remember those good, easy days when they just ran up and kissed you on the cheek and were glad to see you. So it's neat that you did that. You didn't stay at home, just the mommy, so to say, long. You would eventually re-enter the business world with a whole new twist. Tell us about how that came to be.
Well, I was home briefly, let's say maybe 2 years or less. And then my mom came into the house to help out, which was a blessing, so that I could get my feet back out there into physical therapy. Actually went back and worked for Mike at Anatomics a couple of days a week. I did some home health. And then I got hired by Southeastern to teach anatomy and kinesiology. I taught there for about 3 years. And then that is what led me to getting my doctorate, my doctor of physical therapy degree.
Okay.
And the APTA, our national professional organization, has in that time frame had encouraged the BS of science PTs to move towards what they were doing nationally, which was called Vision 2000 or Vision 2000, to have anyone that has been practicing a long time and but steps away with a Bachelor of Science degree rather than an entry-level doctorate, is to encourage them for that postgraduate education. So I went back to school 2014 through 2017. I did the 3-year doctoral program at Arcadia University in Pennsylvania. And it's a brick and mortar school, big university right outside of Philadelphia. And it was humbling, I have to say, Parker, because of
how so?
The way, first of all, I had to dust off part of my hemisphere of my brain to get back into college study mode. The good part about
because the brain is use it or lose it, right? I
right.
mean, if you discard it, it's gone. There's no going back for me and remembering the calculus I learned at Tulane. That's gone.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. So I was, counting out Cheerios and wiping behind, and I had to get back into neuroanatomy. It's like but it wasn't the content; it was the way we learn now, which is you don't have a book. You have, there are textbooks, but it's.
So you went from being the girl who read the encyclopedia cover to cover, 28 volumes or whatever, to, where's the book? Yikes.
Exactly. And so I had to learn how to learn in this modern world. So I went to the librarian at Southeastern at the time, and I said, I need you to show me how to research what all of these databases are, because the transitional DPT, the doctoral program, involves, it's like a capstone project, or it's not a dissertation, but it's a research project. So I had to learn how to access all of these portals, medical journals, etc. So I had to do a little groundwork at first, and it was humbling, like I said, because when I was in school, you had your book, you had overhead projector, you studied at home, you took notes, and now everything is digital and it's not tactile. So, but it was really, it was just, I can't believe I did it looking back, just the age that I was.
That's super impressive. And let me ask you this, how old were your kids when you did that? You went in 2014, how old were your children?
Let's see. I was late 40s when I got into the program. I graduated, I think, at age 49 with my doctoral degree. And we all went to Philadelphia for graduation. We went to see the Liberty Bell, and then where the Declaration of Independence was signed in that room. Anyway, we did a little family trip too. But let's see. My daughter was born in 2001 and my son in 2004. So don't make me do math.
Well, you don't have to, but it sounds like similar ages. So as you know, I'm one of 4 boys. I'm the second of 4 boys. And the reason I ask is my mom went back to school in her 40s when we were kids. And I remember well, I was, at that point, 3 of us were still at home. So I'm in high school, and my brothers, who are 2 and 6 years younger, are that much younger. But it was a lifelong impression that my mom made on me when she's doing homework at the same table as we are when we are. Now, of course, all we had to do was homework, and then we got to play in the yard. She's got a pot roast cooking and a million other irons in the fire. And of course, at the time, all we did was gripe about how it made our life harder. And that meant maybe pot roast with no homemade cookies that night or something. But looking back, on a family with 4 children, 3 of the 4 have JDs, the degree that lawyers get. The 4th has a master's degree. I can't help but, deduce that came from the example of seeing our mom busting her butt. She didn't have to, our bills were paid. She was the sheriff's wife. Life was good, but she had a passion for doing it, and it was hard. She mentioned calculus. Let me tell you, there were some tears at that kitchen table with her taking calculus, and thank God our neighbor, Dr. Allen from Southeastern, was a math professor, and she helped us out, helped mom out. But my point is just to give you applause, applause that your kids may not even get yet what I do in my 40s. But wow, I'm sure that they were impressed with that, and it will shape their life in a way you don't even see yet. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So what were the other
takeaways? Your mom, I love your
son.
mom. Your mom,
She loves you.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Y'all share a lot in common. You're smart women. So before I want to get into downtown yoga, and I probably kept you longer already than I said I would. I want to respect your time. But before I do, what else would you like to share about family life before we moved on? Because you kind of talked about, being a mom, the challenges are coming from, a high stakes profession to doing mom full time, to re-entering the workforce, adding extra degrees, all while your husband's on his own prolific trajectory as a successful businessman. What else should we take away from your family experience before we ask you about downtown yoga?
Well, I think that has been my greatest profession of all is motherhood. And just like with any other profession, it is a challenge. You're still learning as you go. The responsibility of raising other humans and hoping that they have a moral compass and integrity, to me, is probably the most important thing that I've ever done in my life. I can't say that it hadn't been done by my family, the Addison family. My grandfather was the assessor. I had one.
Right, yeah. Was that Mr. J.D. Addison? Am I right? Yeah.
J.D.
Was that
Addison,
J.D. Addison, the assessor?
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of a tangible legend.
And then the Montleon side, very strong people, really smart, funny people. But the right thing.
And wait, can I add one more thing? Brave people. They have volunteered for every war this country ever had. Your Uncle Bill lied about his age by like 3 years, I think, to get into the Marines. So your dad, your uncles, all of them, just great people.
Yes. My dad was in Vietnam. He was a Marine in Vietnam.
Right.
And many of my cousins have served as well, as has my nephew, Cullen Sellers. So, yeah, I think that if there would be one word I would want to have some part in, is that my children have integrity and that they can see the humanity of their fellow friends, neighbors, somebody crossing the street, and that they always go by their moral compass. And I told my kids, always have your words match what your insides say. So if your inside is saying no, but you're saying yes, you're giving away your agency, your decisions. And if you're saying no, but you mean yes, then that's the same thing. So always have your words match what your intuition is. Yeah. And you won't go wrong that way. Yeah. So yes, that is what I can say about my family. I have absolutely wonderful children. My husband, he is the example of integrity. Just a great person. I'm very lucky. We just celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary.
Oh wow! Congrats on that. That's exciting.
Thank you. And my daughter is Drew. She graduated college a couple of years ago. She's a pilot. She's a pilot for hire. Anyone? Another
thing that runs in your family, right?
Yes.
Your dad and uncles and cousins are all tons of pilots there. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and in real estate recently with Keller Williams, Will Frederick. And then my son is a sophomore. I was telling your intern that my son is at Southeastern as well, and he's studying finance. That's
neat. Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear your daughter's working with Will. He's a great guy, married a high school classmate of mine, and he's been on the show, and he's just a fantastic person as well as an incredibly successful realtor.
Yes.
So let's talk
Agreed.
yoga. And I'm going
Okay.
to ask you, of course, how you got on that journey. Clearly, we've heard about a lot of fitness and wellness, so I'm sure that ties in. But I want to tell you a quick story about myself first so you can know where my love of yoga comes in. And it's going to be a story of broken dreams as well as success of yoga. So right before the pandemic hit, my wife and I went to North Cyprus. We work out there, and she take all these classes, and she, and then we kind of joke about a dream coming true. It's going to sound like her dream, but it's my dream. They invited her to become one of the instructors. I don't remember which class it was, bar or whatever. And so she signs up to take the course. She tells me about it. Should I do this? I'm like, absolutely. It's been my lifelong dream to sound, married to an aerobics instructor. And then the pandemic hit and the class got canceled and she signed up for another one and then it got canceled. And, long story long, I guess at this point, she never became an aerobics instructor because during the pandemic, she was forced to work out at home when we couldn't get out. And she got online and she started doing yoga, which maybe she had done a tad of, but not a ton. And she just fell in love with it. So when we got this house that we're now in, we built a yoga studio, still got a dance bar on the wall for her bar dance oriented classes. But yoga's really been her passion. And, she's fit and limber and happy and just there's so much that comes with it. So I've seen it in my family, kind of the power of yoga. And even though it crushed my dream and my wife instructor, we're very happy. So what's your journey with yoga and how did you get to where you are with downtown yoga?
Well, I've always been very active and I always found it to be important to practice what I preach in terms of movement and mobility and function as a physical therapist for all these years. So I've kept myself fit, to the best I can. But I used to run, I used to do all the things that were to be thin or to be just for wrong reasons. And then when I had my kids, I really didn't have a whole lot of time to do all of the gym stuff. And I'm a member of North Cyprus too. Love that gym. But all the things, running and all the intensity. Right. And so I started doing yoga at home. And that's when there was a VHS tape and then a DVD. And then I found Brenna Barzenick.
Okay. Brenna Barzenick. And she's co-founder of Downtown Yoga, right?
Yes. So she became my teacher. But it wasn't downtown yoga. It was a different space she was teaching in. And then it was a journey of many, many years before we started downtown yoga.
Popped up on the screen here, Brenna. I don't know if you can see it on your end, but I got a picture of you and Brenna as the founders there. So please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know of our little change in format here.
Oh, no problem. No, I'm glad you pulled that up. Yeah, so September we'll be celebrating 10 years in business. Yes. So downtown yoga, the yoga practice in general is really it's more than just an exercise for me because you pay attention to the breath. It is stillness, all the things that vigorous stuff, which by the way, I still do some vigorous stuff, the cardio part. But my main form of exercise is yoga. And actually I bridged for many years when I first entered yoga, I looked at it through the science lens, the physical therapy lens. And now when I do any physical therapy, I look at it through a yoga lens. And what that means is when you mentioned very early in the interview that PTs are working with people in pain and who are recovering. Right. We don't teach people how to breathe in medicine at all.
Great point.
And so I wrote 3 years ago, towards the tail end of the pandemic, I decided to write a continuing education course, which I got approved by Louisiana State Board, the Physical Therapy Examiners. It's a 15-hour continuing education course called Integrating Yoga in Healthcare. And I taught it at Women's Hospital, and then last year I taught it twice at Downtown Yoga. And physical therapists and occupational therapists from all over the state came to the course. And I told them at the very beginning, if there's anything that you can take away from this, if you don't remember one thing, just remember, teach your patients how to breathe. And so, and we know now, the evidence tells us and the data tells us, that there is physiology, we know, and ways to regulate stress by way of the breath. And there are many different types of yoga. You don't, and people always tell me, well, I'm not flexible. Well, there's no requirement to practice yoga.
Right.
It's so much more than touching your toes.
Right. There, to that end, there are classes for like big guys like me, heavy people in yoga. There's all kinds of paths into it. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. Good. Yeah. And the yoga that we teach is very accessible for all body types, all ages, all injuries, anything that you can imagine. It is modifiable and everyone is welcome. It's not exclusive. And really anything that's exclusive.
And to that point, my boys,
I don't buy into.
I'm sorry, I didn't. I started to that point. My boys started doing it with their mom, and they got yoga mats. And when they were a little bit so, yeah. I mean, it started with maybe them lying on her back, and she would be winding down at the end or something. But I'm glad you mentioned that aspect of it. I'm also glad you mentioned your role as a teacher, because I kind of glossed over the fact that you were actually an instructor and teacher at Southeastern during your career, right? You do that for years.
Yes.
How has that been for you? Is that something you've enjoyed doing?
Oh, I loved it when I did it. I stopped in 2017 because downtown yoga started getting really busy. And so I didn't have time to do all of it. When I got my doctorate, I thought, hey, maybe I'll teach full time at Southeastern. And I had that opportunity, but then the path was different because the business started to flourish. And I got too busy to do all of those.
Well, one neat thing,
school-age children at the time.
Yeah.
So
Right. One neat thing about a professional career, whether it's physical therapy, law, medicine, whatever, is that it affords you the opportunity to teach your peers, like you mentioned, through the state licensing and certification agencies. I got a plaque in the mail today from our state bar for a conference that I did and taught at in Point Clear. And it's been neat. I love doing that. I love teaching at LSU Law School. It sounds like you and I, we share that. It's neat to hear that you're able to do that. Thank you, Brenna, for doing this. I apologize. I've gone a little long. We're past 40 minutes here. So before I wind up, is there anything else you want to share? Anything on your heart, on your mind, something about, how people can access downtown yoga, just whatever it may be. Why don't I give you an opportunity to say whatever you'd like kind of before we head out of here?
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to have this nice chat. I've known you many years, especially the Montleon connection and your wonderful, delightful parents and your brothers, who, by the way, I saw Bree's interview was the shortest one you've ever done.
It is. That's correct. Yeah. I would think 160 episodes is the shortest by probably 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. I think if I had to take anything away, well, first of all, if you want to come to yoga, we have very qualified teachers, including myself. I'm a physical therapist. HammondYoga.com is our website. So I'll put a little 2 cents in for that. And downtown yoga, we're located obviously downtown. But I think that what we're doing here and what you're doing with talking with people in the community is just a really important thing. I think that the internet in general tends to dissociate people and separate people with the paradox of it being more connected. So anytime that you can connect with someone in your community and have a real conversation, to me, that is tending to the garden where you can reach. So I like to think, let's continue to do good things in our community, spread joy, whatever that means, volunteer, contribute to your profession like you're doing as well. And I think that we can make the world a better place, just kind of one conversation at a time. So I do appreciate you so much and this opportunity, Parker.
Well, I love your closing message there. My Rotary Club met today, and our club's motto is service above self. And I see in you someone who's living that in your professional life, your private life. And, you've always been somebody I really admire since the early days of you putting my brothers back together when they had their Humpty Dumpty fall off the wall moments to now. And I just can't wait to see what you'll do next, because it's been a varied, you're a shooting star, but you're hitting a lot of different angles, and it's been neat to see. So thank you for sharing your very valuable time with us. I know that our listeners and viewers appreciate it, and I certainly do. And for those of you that are still listening, thank you for sticking with us to the end. We're going to wrap up now, but we'll see you back here next week. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.